think we'll just get started. I am going to completely blame Carol, though, because she ate 3 minutes out of this session already. But we'll get you to coffee on time. So yeah, we've got this panel session now on reproducible pipelines, analytics, and scientific reproducibility. So we've got a great lineup. We've got Ben here. No, we haven't got Ben here. We've got Seb here, sorry, from OpenSAFELY. We've got Kate from Our Future Health, Krish from Dexter, University of Birmingham, and we've got Guy here from Evidentli. And before I hand over to Seb, also just a congratulations. I saw you were shortlisted for the MRC Impact Awards as well, so well done on that.
Cheers.
And take the stage. Thank you.
Where's the clicker? There. Thank you. Right, hello, is that working? Yeah, okay, I better get started. Right, so I'm Seb Bacon, I'm the CTO at the Bennett Institute in Oxford, and we make OpenSAFELY, which is a system that enables reproducible open science as the unavoidable default for our large community. We've been hearing about open source stuff. I think the unavoidable default is the interesting bit about OpenSAFELY I want to talk about today. So we started making OpenSAFELY during the pandemic, and we set out with a few objectives. First of all, we wanted to provide privacy protections to the public, and we wanted those to be provable to patients and professionals. And the way we were going to prove that, we decided we'd go for complete transparency, radical transparency of what people use, how people use the platform. So obviously, that starts with all the platform code is open for security review and so on, and of course, it's free for reuse. But it also means that we needed to give tools to make sure that users' own code was also going to always be open. So we wanted to provide complete reproducible analytic pipelines to make sure that all of that could be published as well, not just the code, but how they did it. We wanted to provide federated analytics, partly because we were running against very sensitive GP data in 2 data centers, TPP and EMIS, and we wanted to write code once and run it in 2 places at once. And we wanted to standardize data management tools to help federation, but also for efficiency and legibility and better science. And finally, we wanted to hold ourselves to account. We wanted to be sure we were doing it well, and we thought a good proxy for doing it well would be the number of papers we were managing to get published through the platform. So how does it work? Well, very briefly, the core principle of OpenSAFELY is that users never access the sensitive data directly themselves. Instead, the sensitive data stays in its data center, and then we build tools and we deploy them to those data centers. And then users are given dummy data, and they write their code for data preparation and doing their analysis on their own laptop without any access to the production data, testing it as they go with the dummy data. Then, when they're ready to run it against real patient data, they synchronize it to GitHub, which is a very well-known tool for sharing code online that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And then they log into OpenSAFELY, and they press a button that requests that OpenSAFELY grabs the code from GitHub and then runs it in the secure data center on their behalf without them accessing the data correctly. And finally, of course, we do have ways for them to log in to inspect the outputs and request their release through an airlock. So as I said, of course, all the platform code is open. But I think what's more interesting for today is that because that design I've just described ensures that code has to be in GitHub before it's even run against real patient data, the consequence of that is all our users' code is open for scientific review and efficient community reuse. It's not just the code itself that's made public and published, it's also when it's run and who's been running it. We log all of that in public as well. That's done real time. You can see it at jobs.opensafely.org for yourself. And that's really that we do that to earn the public trust, but it's got some really interesting side effects. So it blocks undisclosed p-hacking, by which I mean I cannot run my own code 100 times with slightly different parameters to try and get the outcome that I want to see in my research without it also happening in public. So that's our method, and then quite a few things fall out of that method, we think. So in particular, and something I personally love about it, is it facilitates a culture of best practice. So because all code's written on GitHub, GitHub is a place where lots of people share code. It's got a lot of tools for helping develop code really well. And so because all the code is on GitHub, that enables habits like testing, code review, version control, great stuff like that. Also, because the users have to do everything at arm's length, then when they start designing their study, they have to think about writing it as a reproducible analytic pipeline. All of the methods for running the bits of code they've written, they have to think about that early on, and that guarantees that those methods, as well as the code itself, are all published online. And of course, also because we ask people to develop offline first on their own laptop, we use a containerized approach, Docker and so on, to ensure that the environment itself is identical on their laptop and in all of the production environments where the patient data is. Another thing that the method allows is standardized legible code for shared tasks. So one of the most important first steps when you work with GP data is turning the messy stuff into some simpler stuff that you can do your analysis against, which in general, lots of people have got lots of different methods for doing that. In OpenSAFELY, we've developed a set of standard codes and tools for EHR data preparation. And those, of course, they're all open, and the fact that people have used them and the ways people have used them are all open and published. So people can share them, copy each other, and that's driven an adoption of kind of de facto standards within our community of users. When you standardize and automate, some good things happen. It's very easy to reuse the code. It can be very fast. If you want to rerun anything, you've got guaranteed you can just do it at a click of a button to run everything, and you get built-in federated analytics. You just write your code once, and then you can run it anywhere. In this case, we're illustrating it running in parallel in TPP and EMIS. It also means great documentation. Our platform, of course, is documented really well, and our software engineers document all of their code examples really well. And again, because people are copying it and reusing it within a community, they inherit that approach to good documentation as well. It's not just for people who write R and Python. We've also got point-and-click tools that use exactly the same open auditing approach behind the scenes. So that's how it all works. A really common question we get is people say, that sounds kind of clever, we get it, it's nice, but it sounds like a real pain to use, isn't it? Isn't it slow? Does it work for being productive? Well, I mentioned our metrics for what we monitor. So we've just published our 63rd paper, and we've worked with 22 organizations since the pandemic, so that's academic institutions, but we've also got people like NICE, think tanks, that kind of thing as well. And I think the very, very beautiful thing about this, the whole design, is that every single new user, every new organization that joins has to contribute code and knowledge to the growing open stack, and they love doing it. That's our experience. And of course, it also guarantees that every paper that leaves the platform has got 100% open code, 100% reproducible analytic pipeline code, end-to-end without any exceptions. So that's it, really. That's why NHS England, we've recently announced we're working with NHS England to be one of the national TREs as a wrapper around GP data. People have been asking me about using it, and just to quickly say our legal basis is currently COVID-19, but we're working with NHS England to get a new legal basis, which we hope will allow broader research soon. Thank you.
Okay. It's behind you. It is behind me. Wow. Okay, I'm going to go back. Okay. First of all, let me introduce myself. It's the first time that I've come to this conference. My name's Kate Evans. I'm the Exec Director of Researcher Data and Product at Our Future Health. And over the next 7 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about what is Our Future Health. I'm going to talk about the data that we're collecting. And then I'm also going to talk about 3 principles for how we create great quality data to enable great research across the UK and beyond. And then, obviously, no sort of presentation would end without a call to action from the research community. So I'm going to tell you how you can get involved. So, Our Future Health. Our Future Health will be the UK's largest ever health research programme. I don't like saying that because it sounds like a competition, and it absolutely isn't. But what we're trying to do, our mission, is to enable people to live longer and healthier lives. We're recruiting participants from across the UK to create a really, really detailed picture of the health of the UK population. 3 aims of the programme. We're recruiting 5 million volunteers to enable that research by academic, charity, and the commercial sector. We will offer health feedback to participants who want to receive it, and we will enable our research community to recontact sub-cohorts of our participant cohort. So growth since the start, where we are today, just over 1.25 million consented participants. So those are participants who've registered and who've provided their explicit consent for us to access their NHS medical records. And we've just over 500,000 full participants. So these are participants who've provided their consent, who've filled in the questionnaire, and who've also come into a clinic and provided 2 vials of blood and given some of their physical measurements data to us. So the bit that I get excited about, the data. So where we are today, in our trusted research environment, we've had a lot about those today, we have over 700,000 completed questionnaires from our participants and over 60,000 participants with initial genotype array data. But we're very much at the foothills of our program. We've only just started. So this is what we look like over the next sort of 3 to 4 years or so. Towards the middle of 2027, we're expecting to have 3 million participants recruited with questionnaire data, a range of genetic data, NHS data, plus all the physical measurements in the TRE. We'll be doing quarterly data releases, so going on to my next bit, this is why we really need to build those data pipelines that enable us to produce quality data at pace, at scale, securely, and reliably for the research community. I'm going to indulge in a little bit in the data itself. So the baseline health questionnaire is 286 questions. It provides a really, really detailed picture of the health of the UK population through the questions that we're asking in that questionnaire. We'll also, one of our core data types will be genotype array data and in future polygenic risk scores that we'll be providing for each participant who signs up to the programme. And then early linked NHS data. At the moment, it's secondary care data, not GP data at this stage. So we've received approval from NHS England to put hospital episode statistics, deaths, and cancer registrations into the trusted research environment. They'll be landing in about June of this year. We're also working with the NHS to find ways to include the primary care data that our volunteers have explicitly asked us to include in this data set. And in future, we'll be collecting additional data. Something that's quite unique about our Future Health is that it will provide the opportunity to recontact participants. Another bit, 3 principles to create great quality data at pace and at scale. So first, I'm quite new to the health data research space, but I definitely am not new to creating large-scale data and analytics at pace and at scale. And there are some things that are really, really important to doing that well. And that is diverse expertise all in one team. So the cross-functional teams that we have in our Future Health, we have product managers who've done research. We've got scientific researchers who can code. We've got full-stack engineers all in a single team alongside data scientists and data operations experts. And when you put those combined disciplines together, that's really when the magic happens. We're just at the foothills of this, but transparent data documentation is also really important. So we are publishing to the HDR UK Innovation Gateway, obviously. We're also putting extensive information on the researcher website and encoding files. But what we really want to do is build that researcher community. The real value in these data comes from the ability to combine it with data from other large cohort studies like UK Biobank, like Genomics England. So we're working very closely with them. And then finally, something that's really important, continuous iteration based on customer use. Our first research study started yesterday in the TRE, so we're just at the beginning of this journey. But we will, in future, have researchers from academics, pharmaceutical companies, startups, small and medium-sized enterprises, all of whom are going to be using the data in very different ways. So we need to understand how you're using the data, how we model it to best enable you to do the kind of research that you need to do for the future and to enable people to live longer, healthier lives. So this obviously leads to my call to action. We do have some opportunities for early adopters here. And sort of sitting in the audience throughout today, I've been struck by how this community can really help us accelerate and maximize the impact of the data resource that we're creating in our future health. So I encourage you to get involved, and obviously opportunities here include waived data access fees as well. It's a little sweetener, but you know, you have to give us your feedback. And I'm 8 seconds ahead of time. Over to you.
Right.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Krishnarajah. I'm a professor in health data science and public health at University of Birmingham. I have other roles which will come up, I hope, in the slides. So today I'm going to talk about democratizing health data research for better care. So I come from University of Birmingham, which is Birmingham known as the second city. Don't know why. It's greener than Paris, less rats than London. It's a beautiful city, a great university, and I co-direct the Center for Health Data Science with Professor George Gutes. Wonderful gentleman. I call him the original data scientist. I'm sort of the synthetic data scientist. We do have some fake ones as well. We give them leadership roles. So in terms of the Center for Health Data Science, there's a reason we both combine together. The reason is what Andrew said yesterday. We need from molecule to man. He's a bioinformatician, I'm a health informatician. 2, we need to combine multidimensional, multimodal data. He's got that expertise. Thirdly, we need to bring a whole range of methods, and together we are able to bring all these methods together. Finally, we need to bring people together. They are the core for what we do. And underpinning that is one particular technology which I'm going to talk to you about, which is Dexter. So what is Dexter? It's an expert system, and the key feature is we knowledge engineered key epidemiological study designs, from simple study designs like cross-sectional study design to very complex study designs like the prevalent new user design in pharmacoepidemiology. And we did this from 2016. I was very fortunate to get a HDR UK fellowship, and so is my computer science colleague, to pursue that even better. Now we can do it for maternal health data, and so on. What this meant was we have a system that has automated study design. It's data agnostic, so it's not just primary care data. It is a software ecosystem which we can bring to your environment. So the data does not have to leave your environment. It's multi-tenant, so each organization is separated when they access. Each project is separated. Each person has a particular role in terms of accessing data or only seeing results. And it's a lightweight application, so it can be applied in any settings. And it is scalable, transparent, and reproducible. And it is for the organization to make the decision what they want to make open. They can make the analytic codes open. They can make who accesses it open. They can make who went on extracting again open. So it's for them to decide to make which parts of it open. On top of it, of course, it has the usual phenotype library and automated analytics as well. So the key reason I embarked on this project 8 or 9 years ago is the ability to enable early career researchers. This is Jot Singh Chandani, who was a foundation year 1 doctor, keen to pursue part-time PhD while being a doctor, and he did it, and Dexter enabled him. He's now published more than 100 papers, has more than £6 million worth of grants, and he's probably maybe the first or the second youngest professor who will be in Birmingham University. It's not just a case study. We have a scheme to make everyone who aspire to become principal investigators like me. And these are some of them. You can call them case series. We have a cohort of people who have gone through doctoral research, masters, and been enabled by such technology. And that's the pride we take, because people matter more than the technology. It's not about only early career researchers, also senior clinicians, any academics, any question they think, every single clinician are equally thinking. It's just they don't have the time, the skill, and the technology. So this is a senior clinician, Dr. Nigel Trudgill, who wanted to do gastroenterology research. Now he's an independent researcher earning his own grants and establishing gastroenterology group. Likewise, so many other groups as well. Having done that, we realized this could do more. One tool, multiple function. So we are working with Segerim in this NIHR-funded grant to create a complete digital trial system. Likewise, in the NIHR pathway for clinical trials, many aspects can be automated using the tool. Thirdly, we have multiple other examples of trials. But my favorite one is this, Learning Health System for NHS. We have just worked with Shrewsbury Maternity Hospital, which was undergoing so much hardship because of all the reporting that was coming across. And this involved, for example, oops, should go back. It's going on its own the other way, doesn't matter. So in the maternity hospital, you would have heard some of the issues they had. There were 150 tables for us to sort out. We were able to sort it, and which meant now they have a system where a learning health system has been established, where the whole data stays where it should stay within the NHS organization, which means audits that took 2 days to look at 50 maternity nodes can be done in 4,000 women within 15 seconds. So we are very keen to implement such learning health system in hospitals. We are working with UHB now, and this means very soon we can do federated data analytics. This is to show that we not only audit practice, but also data quality, because that is equally important. So you get that feedback, so you are enabled to make those changes to your system. So on top of quality improvement and evaluation of healthcare intervention, you can use this for research, clinical trials, and predictive analytics for efficiency of care. And this means we will have such a system in collaboration with the West Midlands Secure Data Environment, and hopefully working with HDR UK and Bitfound, we can enable a system where people can do federated analytics much more easier across multiple hospitals, depending on what their wishes are, how they want to do it. Inspired by some of the work Professor Harry Hemingway did, we got a grant, 2.5 million, to do some sort of informatics consult. This is looking at predicting disease and predicting the right therapy for people with multiple long-term conditions. So this is the journey for the next 5 years. This is all going in different directions, but so finally, this is my greatest passion now, how we can take learning health system to the low middle income country. So this is a system we are implementing in Sri Lanka. That's where I come from. And it's likely to be funded. You know why I say that. £4 million, and which means in a primary care setting, we will put all 3 aspects: decision support, which is knowledge to practice using the open clinical platform, EHR using the open MRS platform, and Dexter for data to knowledge, so completing the whole cycle. And this is what I'm going to spend 50% of my time coming from next year. Thank you. One last sentence. Obviously, this has been now spun out as a commercial organization. So the colleagues who are running that aspect is Christian and Krishna, so please go and meet them. It's not something I'm good at. And thank you very much.
Hello. Hi. I'm acutely aware that I am the last speaker and the last thing between you and home. So I'll try to be quick, engaging, and provocative. So my name is Tsafnat. I am from a company called Evidentli that I'd like to introduce to you now. In 2006, I started to do research on the use of AI to improve care. And over the next 13 years, I've been looking at different methods, and in particular, evidence-based medicine. In 2019, we launched my lab as a company, and that's Evidentli. And we're on a mission to get you insights from data, get you getting insights from data. If you're spending time on infrastructure, if you're spending time on converting data to OMOP, and it takes you months or years, you're doing it wrong, it's a solved problem, come and see us. There's a solution to that. You can spend all that time getting insights from your data rather than converting data. So I'm going to talk about OMOP as a necessary tool on the path to true federation of data. So there's a multitude of data standards out there, and you might be wondering what is FHIR compared to OMOP, and why can't you use one? If you're using one, why do you need the other? All of that is explained, and there's a reference there. The important lesson here is that OMOP is for research, and all the other standards are not. Okay, so let's look at a practical problem when you do this, when you try to federate. You've got two sites in this example, and on those two sites you have two teams that are converting data, however it is in the site, and they're both converting it to OMOP using the same Bible, the same Book of Odyssey that, well, at least some of you know and love. The problem here is that even though they're both using the same book, what they're actually using is an interpretation of this book. And this is very much a human subjective thing, an interpretation of this book. This is not an actual common language yet. It's not yet a common or compatible or interoperable data on both sides yet. So what are the sort of things, I'm going to try to skip this and come back to it, but what are the sort of things that, where the differences happen? I'll give you an example, is that OMOP is notoriously doesn't have any personal identifiers as part of the standard, and that needs to be an extension. And so you can create a table, and OMOP is very specific about how you do that. You create a table that has the personal identifiers, and you do it the way you like it. Now, how do you make sure that all the other sites are using the same table for the same purpose? Other things, they might have a new procedure, a new disease that comes up, a rare disease, a new drug. These are new concepts that you need to introduce into OMOP, and how do you make sure that all the sites are using the same extensions and the same interpretations? So what happens in practice is that between 22% and 60%, depending on what data you're actually sharing, is actually interoperable even when both sites are using the same standard. Yeah, that's why are we doing this, right? Is to be interoperable. So here's what we propose. In between those two sites, we put a collaboration hub called the Evidence Hub, where people can share not just the entire workflows, transformation workflows that are open source and people can see and criticize. The Evidence Hub is GitHub meets Wikipedia meets Reddit, where users can not just contribute code, but also contribute discussion and opinions, and all of that is in the public domain. You can share not just the workflows, you can share parts of the workflow, you can share extensions, you can share the new concepts that you've added, you can get the community's feedback on those, you can get suggestions, and importantly, people can take your work and branch it and change it for themselves. And so that is all supported within the platform. When you do that, what we can see is that we see a huge improvement in interoperability. Now, results vary here, but we're seeing upwards of 80% and even more. So this used to take a year to coordinate sites, and we can do it in weeks. The Odyssey community has already done this many times, and every time, if you ask the researchers, how can you summarize this endeavor in one word, they say hard. If you give them 2 words, they say really hard. But we are here to simplify this process by making sure that all the sites are coordinated and all the extensions are the same. And in fact, the term for this is a dialect, and what we want is a shared dialect between all the participants in a federated study. So the Evidence Hub itself is, like I said, GitHub meets Wikipedia meets Reddit. There are different kinds of what we call knowledge objects here. These could be federated studies. These could be not federated studies. These could be extensions of OMOP or any other thing. Any application can connect to the Evidence Hub. It's not proprietary. There's an open source client that to help you do this, and an API so you can register and handle an application to handle certain kinds of knowledge. And your users get then a one-click install for those objects if they want to try them. So I said I'll be quick. So in summary, or not quite summary, but maybe I'll address the data scientists in the room who are thinking, if you're going to do all that, well, is my job redundant now? Have we replaced me with an AI platform? And the answer to that is absolutely not. We're not here to do the hard work. We're here to let you do the important work, the valuable work. So instead of, if you're a data scientist and what you do day in and day out is produce extracts or transforming data to OMOP, then now you don't have to do that so much anymore, and you can focus on actually supporting the researchers or joining the research and adding value, predicting, using analytics to make predictions, supporting the researchers with actual analytics and analysis rather than just with their being a retailer of data, essentially. So again, in summary, the aim is to make you more effective. The aim is to get you a lot more productive in terms of evidence and empower you to improve healthcare. Thank you.
Thanks very much to the speakers for keeping on time there. I'll prioritize a question just online. So it says, OpenSAFELY publishes mock data to allow for analysis to be easily developed at home. Is the use of synthetic data useful more broadly? So I think it's probably a question for everyone to think about how synthetic data, fake data, artificial data, whatever you want to call it, could be generated from the different approaches. Who wants to go first?
Happy to go first. Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we use synthetic data a lot for development. One thing I didn't mention is the platform is entirely installed on the client. And on the client premises, we don't take any data. We don't have access to data. So all the development we do on synthetic data, that some of it is open source, some of it is licensed from different places. There's a lot of resources out there that are good for development. The key, though, if you're going to develop algorithms or analytics on that, is that it all needs to be homopified. And those synthetic data sets are not usually homopified already. So that's just a consideration. But absolutely, synthetic data is essential.
Yeah. Krish,
Very happy to. So from my point of view, it all is context specific. So as data scientists, we love to see the original data. We struggle to make sense of any other data. But time has to change. And also, it depends, again, in the context. OpenSAFELY is an excellent example of where, at a very sensitive time, you need to do things faster, and you need to access raw data, which you cannot, and mock data is a great example. Whereas in a smaller country, these things can be quite difficult to implement. And for certain purposes, you may still need the raw data. For example, in Shrewsbury Hospital, if they're doing things within hospital setting, as to identify and do. So we are open, and the way we work on our platform, it is available for fake data, synthetic data. If you want original data, that's fine. If you want to make things open, make it open. If you want to make certain aspects open, make certain aspects open. We will cater for anything.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Similarly, we use a sort of mix of synthetic data and real data. We tend to use synthetic data internally to test our data pipelines to make sure that we're going, when we sort of start to put real data through them, that they will work and we'll be able to land the data in the trusted research environment. However, we do think that the sort of core value proposition of actually having that really deep contextual information from the different data sets that we have, you're not going to get that value from a synthetic data set alone. So for us, it's sort of using different types of data when we need to and for different use cases. All of them have a place, and you need to work out when to use what kind of data. So yes and no is my answer.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out in OpenSAFELY our approach with dummy data, which I probably won't go into why we call it dummy, not synthetic now, because there's probably more questions. But our approach is to enable as much to happen offline as possible. But it's quite common that in OpenSAFELY as well, researchers do end up having to run some things against live data at arm's length in order to verify assumptions. So sometimes it can get you all the way, but often it can only get you some of the way. So our approaches are all about making sure we make that part where you don't touch the real data last as long as possible for you to be able to do as much as possible up to that limit.
Thank you. Any questions from the room at all? So there's one at the back there. If you could just say your name and where you're from as well for the online folk.
Hi, my name is Clivet from the Overton Group from Queen's University, Belfast. So I'm trying to understand federated analysis and also data federation and how the OMOP CDM comes in to leverage it. So I think federated analysis is easy because you train a machine learning algorithm and you tell the other institution to use the algorithm, then you aggregately share the results. But with data federation, you have to tell the other institution to transform their health data to the OMOP CDM. And obviously, you get access to their data set. And that's the problem that we are having because healthcare institutions don't want to share their data. They don't want you to get access to it. So how do the OMOP CDM leverage that?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. I have a product for you that does this. This is what I meant. Is a lot of work is done on this. It's considered a hard task. The technology used for that is normally from the 70s. So I suggest that it's time to embrace the power of AI and let the AI help you in that task. The approach we've taken is that we have an AI co-pilot to help you develop a transformation workflow. And as I mentioned, you can then share those for other people with similar data to yours. So it's a lot of work for me, but it doesn't need to be a lot of work for you.
Brilliant, thank you. And so I think we'll end there, given time. Thanks very much to the speakers. Thanks again. You've got, go on, do that. We've got a coffee break.